we're going to get back into the war today. Hope you enjoyed your Thursday and Friday. If you had any work to make up, I hope you were able to take time to get that work made up and send in to me, whether it was a test or anything like that, or a quiz. If you didn't, please make sure you get that stuff in. And if you had nothing to do, I hope you enjoyed those 2 days. So we'll get back at it. We're rapidly approaching the end here, so hang in there, keep doing what you're doing, and we'll get through it. Okay, I know it's been a struggle, but we're gonna get through it. So the first couple slides we already did, so I'm gonna get kind of to where we need to be. Talk about this. All right, so we haven't really talked too much about Russia. Most of our talk so far has been on what was going on the Western Front. So with Russia, as far on the Eastern Front, it's Russia against Germany and Austria-Hungary. Serbia plays a minor role, but Serbia is really so small that they really have nothing that they can contribute during the war. So Russia is not as strong as these other industrialized nations, which meant they had insufficient weapons, they had poor uniforms, they didn't have the gas masks where they needed them, they didn't have the proper equipment, and they didn't have railroad, which meant they couldn't get from point A to point B as quick as everybody else. Even though they were able to mobilize quicker than expected early, it still is going to play a role as the war goes on. Okay, Russia has the world's longest army, but about a third of the soldiers didn't have weapons. Okay, but because their army was so large, even though Germany was stronger, Russia could continue to send tens of thousands of people into war at a time just to slow the Germans down. So that's really the one thing that the Russians had going for them. But think about it, if you're a soldier, even if you're a citizen, you get conscripted into the army. Now you've got to fight. And you don't have proper equipment. You can't get to a battlefield in ample time. You don't have a uniform. Eventually that's going to start to wear on the people. And Russia's involvement in World War I and the struggles that they have in World War I is going to eventually lead to the Russian Revolution. Now, if we were in school right now, we would kind of segue into the Russian Revolution and go back to World War I, but because of doing it this way, we're gonna just push through the war, and then we're gonna go back in time and look at the Russian Revolution. Okay, so ultimately, Russia's problems and what Russia's lacking is really what puts them at a disadvantage, obviously, but also is what leads to the revolution, and it brings about communism. Okay, so remember, first time we started this, I said it was the most important event or the most important person. Okay, this is all because Gavrilo Princip. Okay, the next event, it's called the Gallipoli campaign. Again, I don't have a map like this, so I really can't show you, and it doesn't look good on the screen. But the Dardanelles Strait by the Ottoman Empire. All right, when they have these different battles, okay, the Western Front, the Eastern Front, okay, the battle at the seas at Jutland, okay, the battles in Africa, those are all called theaters of war. Okay, a theater makes it sound like it's kind of like elegant. So there's this idea that the British have where if we can stretch the Germans as much as possible, and we can kind of help the Russians out and get them supplies, because think about Russia's location is compared to the location of Britain and France. Russia's cut off because of Germany in the middle. Okay, so remember, Germany thought that at the beginning that was going to be a huge disadvantage for them. But because Russia's really so kind of out of whack with everything, they can't get the supplies that they need from their allies. So the British and the French said, all right, you know what, we're going to open up another theater of war. Okay, they're going to open up this theater of war at the Dardanelles Strait, okay, and it's going to be called the Gallipoli campaign. And they thought that they could open a supply line to the Russians, okay, and they're going to go in there and they're going to fight the Ottoman Empire and get the Ottoman Empire out of the war, because now the Ottoman Empire is fighting with the Germans because they want to keep their collapsing dynasty. Okay, but again, just like the fighting on the Western Front, the French and the British and the Germans and the Ottomans are going to start to kind of engage in this trench warfare again, and neither side is going to gain advantage, and you're going to have 250,000 people die within 10 months. Okay, but it's just another place now that war is being fought that it wasn't before. Remember, this all starts Austria and Serbia. Okay, then we got fighting going on in Belgium. We have fighting going on in France. We have fighting going on in Germany. We have fighting going on in Russia. Okay, there's fighting in Africa. There's fighting in Italy. There's all this fighting going on, and this is what makes it a world war. Everybody is slowly getting involved. Okay? All right, so now we have the main people, right? We have the Central Powers. The names changed. They are no longer the Triple Alliance. Now they are the Central Powers because of their location. Germany and Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire joins with them. The Allies, who used to be the Triple Entente, are now called the Allies. Great Britain, France, Russia. Italy switches sides. Remember, Italy is initially with Germany and Austria-Hungary. But because the agreement that Italy had with Germany and Austria-Hungary was a defense agreement, there was Germany and Austria-Hungary were on the offense. They weren't involved in a defense reason for fighting, so Italy switches sides. Okay, Japan is going to join in. They are going to fight with the Allies. Australia is going to aid the British. India is going to aid the British. The French and the British are going to go to their African colonies, and they are going to make their colonists fight on their behalf. Okay, so this is how it all becomes world. Everybody's sending different people. Japan joins because Japan says, you know what, if we win, okay, we can get stuff from Germany. Germany has stuff in our region of the world. We want their stuff. If we're on the winning side, we can get their stuff. Okay, the Ottoman Empire and Bulgaria are going to join the Central Powers. Okay, so within, there's literally dozens of different declarations of war that are going to be announced. Okay, and I'll post them so you can see just how crazy it is. All these different declarations of war and the dates and who declares war on who and when they do it. Okay, so now you got all Europe fighting, and all of Europe's bringing in their colonists to help them fight as well. Which is what I was just saying. So on behalf of the Allies, Japan attacks Germany's colonies in China and the Pacific. The French and the British recruited volunteers from their Asian and African colonies to fight on the front. So I just talked about that. Some of the African soldiers were some of the best soldiers that the British and the French had. Okay, they won a lot of battles for the British and the French. Okay, going back to what we talked about months ago, Gandhi is going to favor the war. By World War II, it's changed his side, but for World War I, he is in favor of the war. He believes that if India sends in troops to help fight, that the British are going to reward them with independence. Okay, and as we know, that's not the case, and that's not going to happen for them. All right, so now we got Europe fighting. We got the colonies fighting. Okay, it's kind of everybody fighting on the other side. So now we got to get the United States involved. All right, so the most important weapon of World War I, a lot of you wrote the machine gun, artillery, poison gas. The most important weapon of World War I is the submarine. Okay, both for how effective it was, but also because the submarine is what changes the war, okay? During all of this fighting, the United States is neutral. They are not involved. But they're sending stuff. Okay, we go back to last PowerPoint, contraband, illegally sending materials during a time of war. If you are a neutral country, you cannot say, you know what, we're going to send materials. We're going to help one side over the other. Okay, it's not really ethical. Okay, and they got to think about the United States. They have people from Britain. They have people from Italy. They have people from Germany. They have people from Russia. They have people from Poland. They have people from France. Live in the United States. If they pick a side, then they might alienate their population. So imagine you're the president. You got an election coming up. You don't want to alienate people. Okay, no, we're going to stay neutral. We're going to stay out of it. Let the Europeans fight this war on their own. We're going to stay out. Okay? But the Germans have this submarine warfare that they're using, and they are going to use it to their advantage to try to eliminate the advantage that the British have, their navy, right? So the Germans are going to start to sink several British and French passenger ships. Okay, one of the ships that they sink is called the Lusitania. It's a British passenger ship. The Germans believed that they were smuggling contraband. Think to yourself, what might contraband be in the eyes of the Germans? Weapons, ammunition, guns, uniforms, food, whatever you can think of that the Allies could use to defeat the Germans. The Germans say, well, wait a second, if you're neutral, you should be doing that, United States. And there's warnings, hey, listen, we're going to sink your ships. So if you're a passenger, don't get on a ship. So, think about that. If you knew that there was a chance that you could be on a ship that was going from the United States to Britain, and the Germans might sink you, would you think twice about getting on the ship? You probably would. Okay, as I said, most Americans say that this is a European conflict. We're going to stay out. The president's pretty much on that side. On April 2nd, 1917, the president, Woodrow Wilson, declares war on Germany. Okay, even after the Lusitania, stay out. They're mad about it, but they stay out. There's over 100 Americans on the ship that die. They stay out. Wilson says, "Listen, you got to start bombing. You got to stop sinking ships of Americans. You can't do that no more." On April 2nd, Wilson declares war on Germany because they take out 4 American merchant ships. A merchant ship would be a ship that has goods for trade, or to sell, obviously. So once they do that, the United States says, "You know what? We're declaring war on Germany. Too bad for the German Americans. We need to go to war. But we have to spin this so we get the public has to be behind us. Okay, we have to make sure that the public is behind it because you can't get involved in a war and the public not be for it. Okay, think about recent history with wars. A lot of people know, we shouldn't be involved. Don't stay involved, stay out. Okay, and that's the changes the course of a country when you get in a war that's not popular. So for the United States, how are you going to spin it? You're going to use propaganda. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at that a little later in the week. Okay, the second reason, or the third reason now at this point, we're standing with these 4 partnerships, is called the Zimmerman Note. Okay, now the Zimmerman Note was a note sent from Germany to Mexico, trying to keep the United States out of the war. So it's a German telegram to Mexico stating that if the United States entered the war, that Mexico should attack the southwestern United States. Germany would provide weapons and money to compensate the Mexican government and the army. They want Japan to join. But think about that. Japan is already fighting Germany. They want them to switch sides. Okay? Except the only problem with this is this note is intercepted by the British. And the code is translated. And it's sent to the United States. It's published in all the newspapers. Look what the Germans are trying to do. Now, this is another thing that is going to elevate people's acceptance of the war. They want Mexico to fight us? How dare they? Why would they do that? Okay? Once the letter finally reaches Mexico, they already know that we know about it. So Mexico says, no thank you. Okay? No thank you. We are not going to fight the United States because now they know. And now you have a lot of people in the United States who are angry with Germany and are for the war. Okay, so this is, I know you can't see it, but this is what it says. The Dakota telegram is as follows. We intend to begin on the 1st of February unrestricted submarine warfare. We shall endeavor in spite of this to keep the United States of America neutral. In the event of this not succeeding, we make Mexico a proposal of alliance on the following basis. Make war together, make peace together. Generous financial support and an understanding on our part that Mexico is to reconquer the lost territory in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. You help us, we're going to do everything we can to help you win, and then you can have all the land back that the United States took from you. The settlement in detail is left to you. You will inform the President above, most secretly as soon as the outbreak of war with the United States of America is certain, and add the suggestion that he should, on his own initiative, invite Japan to immediate adherence and at the same time mediate between Japan and ourselves. Okay, Mexico, reach out to Japan, see if they want to help you. And then they can take all the territory in the Pacific that the United States has instead of our territory. Please call the President's attention to the fact that the ruthless employment of our submarines now offers the prospects of compelling England in a few months to make peace. They believe that if they keep using these submarines, the British are going to have to give up. And if the British give up, then France and Russia can't win. But if the United States gets involved, that's a game changer. You gotta keep them out. All right, so what's the war like in the United States? Okay, it's the idea of total war, devoting all of the nation's resources to the war effort. Okay, the government controls the economy. They tell factories what to produce and how much to produce. Unemployment disappears throughout the country and the world because the people are all making things for the war. And as men go off to war, more women join the workforce. Now I want you to think about this. These first things. Think about what's happening today. Okay, think about some of the things that are happening in some manufacturing plants. Okay, in some factories. GM and Ford. In a lot of cases, a lot of factories, they have slowed down the production of vehicles and have been asked by the government to make ventilators. Okay, so this kind of concept is something that still happens when needed. Except the only problem is the exact opposite is happening in terms of unemployment. The unemployment here is soaring right now. Or back then during World War I, the unemployment rate went down significantly. All right. So I mentioned before, Russia is going to eventually bail out. Okay, civil unrest with the people. They don't have enough weapons. They don't have enough food. They don't have enough oil. The lack of food, fuel is going to lead the king, the Tsar, Nicholas II, to abdicate or step down from the throne. Okay? The fighting in the war resulted in the loss of 5.5 million soldiers. Right? That's a lot of people. Okay? For at this point a very short time. The soldiers who were towards the end, while they're still involved, some of the soldiers are gonna be like, I'm not doing this. I'm giving up. I'm not going to fight. Okay. New government led by communist Vladimir Lenin signs the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, which ends the fighting between Russia and Germany. We'll talk more about this when we do the Russian Revolution. But now Russia's out. So if Russia's out, what does that mean for France and Great Britain? Okay, yeah, eventually they're going to get the United States to join forces with them. But all those troops that are fighting on the Eastern Front against the Russians are now moving to the West. Okay, so now there is a new, larger, I shouldn't say new, a larger enemy that now they have to encounter. Now they're fighting the whole German army, not half. Okay? All right, so we're going to stop there. The rest of this PowerPoint kind of gets to the end of the war. We're not going to go in great detail. Again, if we were in class, things might be a little bit differently, but there's a couple things I'm going to have you do with this information over the next couple days. Again, you're not going to have a homework quiz on Section 3, and we're going to move on from there. You will have some kind of homework quiz or something on Section 4. I don't anticipate a large test for this. There might be some kind of quiz, some kind of open notes, open notes test towards the end, but it's not going to be like one of my tests that I would give in class, or something a little bit differently, So I got to look at what we're going to do for that. All right, if you guys have any questions, send me an email, post something on Schoology so I can check it out. All right, keep up the great work. Take care.